Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'll be working on my Ginkgo biloba. This tree was in the sales section of a big box store, and the reason was that the whole top of the tree had died. So I cut off the dead part and kept all my living branches, and I repotted it last year, and I didn't do any root pruning because the tree was extremely weak and unhealthy. Over the summer, the health of the tree improved dramatically. It got all kinds of new branches and it grew really tall. Today I'll be doing some initial styling to the tree, and I'll be repotting it and root pruning it to get the root system underway as a bonsai. This coming up today in the Bonsai Zone. The ginkgo that I have here is just a regular large leaf ginkgo, and the leaves don't reduce much using bonsai techniques. So ideally you should grow this as a medium to a large size bonsai tree. Here's a look at the sort of present state of this tree. You can see the roots have really thickened up, and they're looking quite nice. I like the way they come down vertically, and someday they'll kind of blend in with the trunk. That'll look quite good. I've got a lot of branches coming off of it, off of the stump, that have gotten quite thick. So I'll need to find a single leader, and it'll probably be the skinny one up here. All the others are kind of too low. I don't want to cut the stump off and make it, exaggerated taper at the base of this tree. I want it to look like a natural tree that you'd see in nature. So I think, I'll pick this top leader as the extension of my trunk line, and I'll let that grow and thicken up, and someday it'll blend in with this existing trunk and this, pruning scar here where the top of the tree died. That'll heal over and disappear someday. There was a ginkgo tree at the Toronto Bonsai Society's fall show last year that really inspired me, and everyone who saw the tree really liked it. And the tree had a fairly tall trunk before the branching started, and then it kind of went up into a deciduous style upper canopy, and it just looked beautiful and it looked very natural. I really liked the style. It appealed to me. And I'll try and get that similar styling in my tree. I'll show you a clip of that tree from the Toronto Bonsai Society's fall show of 2019. I'm going to start today by removing this root that's kind of an aerial root. Don't want that growing out of the trunk of the tree there. And I'll prune that back down into the soil. There's another one here that bothers me. It's kind of crosses over another root. I'm going to get rid of that. It's not very radial, and it's kind of a bit odd looking. So that's gone. I think all the rest of the surface roots look pretty good. There's a dead one here I could remove. This one's at a bit of an angle, but when I go to repot it, maybe I can straighten that one out. So now here's the next big step. Will be taking all these branches off and just leaving my one up top. There's the remains of a dead one here I'm going to clean up. Like that. And I'll start with this lowest one here. You'll see a lot of ginkgos growing in that kind of clump style where they have a thick trunk and then they have all these branches coming off of it, and it's not a bad style, but I want this one to look like a natural tree. Or a big mature natural tree. All right, here goes this big branch here. Here I go. like that. That was a tall branch. Wow. Now, I'm looking at my wound here. It's not bad. That's going to heal over nicely as this tree grows. So I'll come around to this side one now, this branch here, and we'll get that one removed. So here I go, just like that. And there's one left down here, a little tiny one. Off it goes. So there we are. We're left with a trunk and a single leader now to grow for this summer. The next step for this tree is to get it out of the pot, remove all the soil, and then work on the root system. This tree was repotted about the same time last year, so I'll try and get the tree out of the pot now. I don't know how much of a root system it'll have in just one season, but we'll find out. Ginkgos do grow roots quite easily. There we go. There we go. Well, the root mass is intact anyway, so it's definitely growing roots this year. I'll begin to rake away the soil from the surface here. This is a really good soil. It's pumice, mixture of pumice and turfus. And the tree grew really well in both this pot and the soil last summer, so I have no complaints. I was really worried this ginkgo wasn't going to make it. It was in such poor health. You know, just in the big box store, they just let it dry out and it all died. And it was in the sale bin, and the first time I saw it, I thought, I really can't spend even $20. It was a bit of a risk. But then the second time I went back to the store, it had sprouted new branches coming out of the base, so I knew the tree was alive, so then I bought it. And I'm glad I did, because it's a nice starter ginkgo for bonsai. It's not too small, not too big. It's kind of at a good stage to develop into a nice bonsai tree. So there's one of those roots that I pruned away. I can throw that out. My other one's over here. Those roots I cut off. I can't get out yet. But yeah, so I'm happy the tree survived and grew well. And, you know, I'm sure I'll be doing some fairly severe root pruning today. So I'm hoping the tree survives this process. This might be the most critical process as I get this root system underway to grow as a bonsai. Seems to be lots of nice fine fibrous roots that have grown, so that's really encouraging. I've heard of people severely root pruning ginkgos and they survive quite well. I think they're kind of like a maple tree, you know, you can remove a lot of root and they grow their roots back very quickly. I'll take my screen out from the bottom here. I use one big large screen in the bottom of the pot. The reason I do that is exactly as you saw today. It helps you lift the root mass out as one unit, so your soil doesn't all crumble at the bottom. Yeah, so there's my screen. It holds the root ball intact when you pull it out of the pot. That's just something I've been doing lately, and it seems to work really well. So now I can kind of get underneath the tree and get some of that soil removed. So you can see all the new roots are this lighter color. You can see them here. Those have all developed last summer. The original roots it had are this darker color. You can see from this view the tree has a very wide tapered base to the trunk. And then the leader looks good. So this will probably be the front view of the tree, from what I've seen so far anyway. And this soil is in really good condition, so I will be reusing this soil. I don't normally reuse soil, but This was one of my trials using the pumice, and you know, it worked really well, the pumice. I can't afford to buy pumice for all my trees, so you know, maybe someday in the future I can pick my very best trees and plant them in pumice, but I think pumice is, you know, quite a good medium, soil medium. It's probably better than perlite, but it's also, you know, 2 to 3 times the cost. And you know, when you have a lot of trees, it all adds up. It becomes, you know, expensive hobby if you are buying top soil ingredients, akadama and pumice and lava rock. It makes the hobby very expensive. So if you can make do, you know, if you can use local soil ingredients that you can get around your city or town, it helps keep the price of bonsai down. And you know, if you water correctly, the trees grow well in any kind of free draining, gritty kind of soil. But yeah, maybe someday, you know, some of my best trees will get repotted into a premium soil, a very high quality soil, as they become show trees. That's getting close to being bare rooted. Yeah, so there's that shot of the front. I didn't realize it was out of the view of the camera, so you can kind of see the tapered base coming up to the leader up here. So it's looking quite good. And I don't want it to be a one view tree. We'll develop it so it looks good in all directions. But there's always one view of the tree that always looks the best. Even in nature, you can see trees out in nature, and there's one view that just shows all the branches off to their best advantage and just looks best from that view. Now, I'm going to try and get that root out. There it goes, that one. Lots of bird action this morning. I'll put my screen back in the bottom of the pot and get a base layer of soil in the pot. So I'll just pick out the roots that are in here. I'll just fill a pot, you know, up to about here, and then the root system will go on top of it. I'll take the tree over to the washing station and get the roots cleaned up. And the reason I wash the roots is when you're pruning with your cutting tools, you don't have soil on there to dull your cutting surfaces. So here I go. I had to clean out a few duck feathers. They come and they actually get into this little pond and swim around and have a bath. So in goes the tree. Got all the soil washed out. A lot of people say that, you know, when you wash the roots like this, you're removing the fungus from the roots. And the fungus and the roots live in symbiosis. The tree feeds the fungus its sugars, and the fungus breaks down nutrients for the tree. And I don't think washing a tree like this removes any fungus from the roots. It's still attached to the root system. So I believe anyway. I could be wrong, but I haven't noticed any ill effects of washing roots in water, especially rainwater like this. It's, you know, if you're using a chlorinated water, a tap water or something, maybe, you know, you will kill some fungus. But rainwater like this, I mean, it's not going to hurt the tree. Not that I've noticed anyway. Okay, let's start the root pruning. I've got out my spinning tree bonsai turntable. So now we can start working on the roots. And the first step is to determine the soil line or the root plane. So everything above the root plane you'll see, it'll be visible, and everything below the root plane will be hidden beneath the soil. So you want to find a root plane where you see some surface roots and the majority of your good roots are kind of hidden just below the surface of the soil. So you get the roots coming down from the trunk and flaring out into the soil at an angle. So as the tree grows bigger, you know, that root flare will always look good. It won't, if you make the roots too horizontal to the ground, you get an awkward transition between the vertical trunk and the horizontal roots just above the soil level. So you want your roots to always be tapering downwards into the soil, and that way you can always raise it and lower it. If you have your roots parallel to the soil plane, you can only raise it and then all the roots start sticking above the soil. So you always want them tapered down into the soil. So I've already discussed that this will probably be the front of the tree. If you rotate it around, it doesn't look so good from the back. The sides, there's not much root flare. So yeah, this will probably be the front of the tree. And I've got to determine my root plane. So, you know, we have this curve coming down the trunk here, which kind of flares out. So I would say my root plane would be somewhere around here, keeping that flare each side. So that'll be a fairly heavy reduction of the root system. I'm going to start with this root here. And it kind of comes out and it starts flaring out, and then it goes more vertical. So I'm going to cut it off at that part where it's still flaring out. All right, here I go. I'm going to start on this root. So I'm going to come in and cut it right about here, doing a horizontal cut with the surface of the soil, just like that. So now you can see how this root still flares out, and then when I hopefully get more roots coming out here, they'll continue to taper down into the soil. The next root, I've got one that comes from below this one, and it needs to be cut off at about the same level. So I'll just take that one off right there, getting rid of that. I've got one here that comes out and kind of flares out, and then it starts going downhill again. So, and it's kind of a strange root because this one kind of crosses it. Yeah, it's not a very good looking root at all. I'm wondering if I should remove that totally. I think I should. I think it comes from somewhere on this side of the tree. Yeah, right here. You can see it goes down, undercuts, and then goes through here. So that has to be removed. That's no good. So I'm going to, I'll prune it off flush for here, or flush right here. There's a root underneath it, and I'll have to, there, I just got the top part of it. You can see there's a root that continues there. I don't think that one's any good either, so I'm going to get rid of all of that. Like that. So that root still crosses underneath there. I might have to dig it out somehow once I get these roots sorted out more. So this one also, it flares out at the trunk and then it goes straight down. So I'm going to prune that off, and to do that I have to get rid of this crossing root here. So I'll get rid of this one first, and I have to cut it on an angle for now, just so I can get at it, like that. And then I think I can get at this one, like that, and get rid of that root that shoots straight downwards. Okay, now coming around here. So this root here, I mentioned it kind of creates a bit of a flare here, And it's a bit of an awkward root. You can see it comes from the trunk and it comes off at a funny angle. So it does have one out the back here that's at a better root or better angle coming off the trunk. So what I need to do is cut this part of the root off and then develop these two out the back. So this will be a fairly major cut here, but it'll be good for the tree in the end. There's another root out the front here. All right, so here I go. I'm going to cut this part of the root off and trying to see how to get in there the best. I think I'm gonna have to make an angle cut kind of upwards. Not my favorite kind of root cut, but it'll do the job. So here I go, like that. So now we'll develop these roots as the, continuing the flare off the trunk. So, still a long way to go here. There's a root here that comes off the trunk and it crosses underneath here and goes somewhere. We gotta try and untangle that. Like that. And it kind of grows out here, so if it were to grow between these two other roots here, it would look much better. Like that. Just sorting out some of the roots at the back here. Okay, now I've got, if we look at the bottom of this tree, I've got a root that comes straight down here. You see it right here. So I've got to remove that. And that'll give me my, the start of a flat radial root base. So I'm going to come in and cut that one off. Here I go. Like that. So there's that part of the root. And you can see the cut in here. Trying to get that flat root system. If I can. So the next step, I've got one here that comes from the middle of the trunk, and I don't want that, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Pruning it off back here. I've got two really heavy roots coming out here, and they do they flare in nicely from the trunk, kind of a flowing root system, but they're way too long. We want to develop our, more horizontal fibrous root system off here, so they have to be reduced back, so I'm going to do that there. And this one here, we're going to come back. When you've got a root like this, it's really long, and you can see at the bottom it's been pruned once by the big box store. I didn't do that root pruning, and then it grows this pom-pom of roots out the bottom. And whether you cut it here or here, doesn't really make much difference. The root, it'll grow new roots from wherever you cut it. So there's no point cutting it back in stages. They do have a little bit of energy or sap stored in the roots, but I found, most of the time you can prune it right back and it'll grow new roots around the cut point. So you might as well do it all at once. Take your chances. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to reduce it quite far back, if I can get in there, to here. And I'm trying to get in there. It's not easy. Getting there. There we go. So that's cut off to right there. Get rid of that. Now this one is still a little long. I can get at it better now, so I can reduce that back further to there. Like that. This one's a new root from last year, and that needs to be reduced also, so we'll take it right back to here. And now I've got another long one coming off the side here. That's just got to be reduced back to here, like that. I've got some roots growing from the inside here I can cut back. So we're trying to get our root system flat and radial. Not totally flat, tapering. So it is getting there. You can see the tree sits on its new kind of root base now. You can spin it around and look at it from all directions. So the next part will be to reduce some of these long roots here. You can see the ones coming off here, they're very long. They need to be pruned back. These are new roots from last year. And they grew really well. So I'll get these roots sorted out, kind of comb them out, get them untangled, and we'll try and get what roots are left pruned back. All right, let me get out the scissors and we'll start pruning around, pruning back all these long roots. That's some good roots there. Good fibrous root system developing. So I'm just pruning it back, kind of to a circular profile. Someday this will go in an oval-shaped pot, I'm sure. But that'll be into the future. We'll have to worry about that for a while. So that's kind of got the root system in check. I'm not too worried about root direction at the moment. I just want to keep what roots I have developing. There'll be further corrections coming in the future, I'm sure, as it grows more and more roots and the health of the tree improves and starts growing a canopy. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I think it'll fit nicely in the pot. I think we've got, all the major roots pruned back, and I still have that one that's growing underneath here. I'm wondering if I should dig that out, do a bit of carving in that area. I think I probably should. I know if I don't get that out, it'll grow new roots and my problem will still be there. So I'm going to kind of stretch this root out here and maybe I can come in and carve it away with my knob cutters. Okay, I think that's pruned far enough back that if anything ever did develop on that root, it would be radial and in not a bad direction. Yeah, so that's got that crossing root all corrected there. So yeah, it's looking not bad. You can see this root system developing into the future. It should look very nice. I'm hoping this, will become a really nice tree in the future. It has the potential. Every tree does. Just pruning off some of these roots that are growing straight down here too. Keeping my flat kind of radial root system intact. Yeah, that's looking really good. All right, well, I think it's ready for planting. All the work I did today was fairly risky, taking the root system back this far, but I think I have a lot of confidence. I think the tree will recover quite easily, and I think I'll have a really nice bonsai someday. I think I've taken all the steps to create a nice, root system and a trunk eventually, and then we'll get a branch structure. And so, yeah, a little risky, but I'd rather do, all the right steps and maybe realize if I lose the tree that I went too far. But I don't know. It's just something you have to do to transition it from a a nursery tree to a bonsai tree, you have to take the risks and do a lot of root work and, you know, pruning work and that. Otherwise you'll never get a nice bonsai tree. So yeah, hopefully, you know, it'll pay off in the end. So I'm going to get the tree in the pot, and I'll want to bury it, you know, up to, I would say, have my soil line up to here and keep all this below. So I'll have to see what height that comes to in the pot. I'm going to plant it on the diagonal so the front is towards the corner. That gives me the most width for that root flare. If I planted it this way in the pot, it's a little crowded. So the front will be on an angle, which is a little strange, but that's the way it'll be. So to get my height, I want, that would bring this level with the lip of the pot, and I want it just slightly below, so about there, which is almost where I have the soil. I have to add a bit more. Better to put a mound in the pot and then kind of twist your tree down on it. Okay, there's my mound. Now I'll put my tree on top so that you're seeing the front of it. And then I'll comb out the roots, trying to get them nice and radial, sorted out before I fill it in with soil and before I twist it down further. Not a lot of roots at the front there, but okay, so I'll twist it down, getting my height about right. Somewhere about there. Make sure the tree is sitting straight in the pot. Well, it's not bad there. And then I can start filling it in with soil. I'll just put a light layer in at first and work it into the roots and start building it up to the top of the pot. Ideally, this soil should be dry for repotting, but I'll get it worked in. You can kind of feel the voids with the end of the root rake here. Bang the sides of the pot and it settles the soil down. Okay, I can add some more now. Yeah, that's looking good. I just need to fill in a little more soil and I think it'll all be done. The tree is nice and firm in the pot there. Always fill your soil level just below the lip of the pot. That way you can put the water on, and if it's, you know, your soil's really dry and it pools on top, it doesn't run over the sides of your pot. It kind of sits there and eventually it soaks in. So yeah, don't have it up flush with the lip of the pot, just slightly below. And that goes with show trees and everything. You just want to see a little bit of that inner lip of the pot. All right, I'll do a little cleanup here and then we'll have a final look at it. Here's a look at the ginkgo now. I'll spin it around. So this is the front of the tree. And we'll spin it around. Yeah, so a lot of good stuff happening with this tree. So the next step, I'll water it to get all the soil settled in place. Here I go with the water now. So I'll have to keep my eye on the temperatures. We're still, you know, going below freezing at night. And I'll have to keep the tree protected so it doesn't see extreme cold. If I have to, I can put it in the greenhouse at nighttime, and I can also put it in the basement if we get some, you know, really cold nighttime temperatures, you know, well below the freezing mark. So the idea is to keep this above freezing if possible. You know, just above freezing, so it doesn't get too cold. All right, the water is coming out the drainage holes now, so that should be good. I've got the ginkgo in the greenhouse. I'll keep it here. It's cloudy today, and it's quite cool in the greenhouse, so I'll just leave it in here to kind of help it recover from this major operation. So I'm really excited about this ginkgo. I think that base is looking really good. I've got a leader. I just can't wait for it to leaf out and start growing. I hope it grows really well all summer and thickens that leader up, and hopefully someday we'll get this beautiful ginkgo tree out of this stump. It's time now for today's update. Today's update is my little spruce that I grew from a seed. I think it's about 4, maybe 5 years old now. So I've been pruning it to try and get that, you know, typical spruce styling to it. There's a lot of the older needles have turned kind of a bit brown in color, but all the buds at the end of the branches are quite healthy. I'll show you a close-up of that. Let's go in now and have a close-up look at those branches. So here's one here that you can see that even though, you know, all these needles are kind of a reddish brown color, there's buds all over the branch that look really good. They're starting to get plump up here too. So it should be fine. It should come out nicely. There's some buds at the apex here that are just ready to come out. I've repotted this spruce twice, so I should have the start of a good radial root system at the base of this tree. And you can see the base is looking pretty good. It's a nice looking little tree. So we'll keep developing this into the future. I probably will repot it this year. So it's coming along nicely, this little spruce. I'm always excited to see the new foliage come out in spring. It looks just really cool. That's all for today. I got my ginkgo underway as a bonsai tree. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.